Good to see you, another new good video. Thank you for clicking. Now on this video, I'm going to take you through a well-sought question that people have been telling me to make on this, especially people who are in diaspora, likes of Gulf, likes of UK, United States, and what have you, and asking me, hey Joseph, or some of them are here in Kenya and asking me, hey Joseph, would you mind to make us a video about what's the best option or the best decision when it comes to either building your own home or actually buying out there? So I'm gonna give you a very fair, what we call like an honest opinion, what exactly you're supposed to do and what awaits for you for either option. All right. So anyway, and guess what? I always post a video each and every day. So if you don't want to miss any of my good videos, this is what I want you to do. It doesn't cost you anything. It is free of charge. All right. Just down below there on your right, there is a button written subscribe. It is in black. Just hit that magic button. Then on your left, there is a like button. If you hit those two magical buttons, guess what happens? You just relax somewhere and then YouTube will be notifying you whenever I upload a new good video. All right. So let's get into today's business. Okay. So I know and understand that it's everyone's dreams, including mine and anyone who is out there to own a home. Okay. So the point is this now. How do you own it? The process of actually owning that specific home. Is it either by buying or is it by building? So what exactly awaits for you and which option should you go for, especially in Kenya in this year 2023, if this is the year that you like to buy a home, or maybe let's say in future. So what exactly, I'm gonna take you through step by step exactly on each so that you know and understand exactly what awaits for you. So let's say you go for the point of you buying. So now the point is this now. Who exactly befits into you buying? You may find like yourself like you don't want these hassles and bustles of actually following up with the fundis or the construction companies or wherever the people are constructing for you. So you just want to go out there. You just want to know like you want to buy like a house worth like 7 million or 10 million, whichever the capacity that you have. Or maybe you don't want all that processes of building and what have you. So you can choose go the buying way. The other people that chooses to go by buying is people who decide to live close or the close proximity to the Nairobi or any other big city. And you know very well, actually you buying a piece of land in that specific area, it's a bit expensive. So the question is this. Now, you may decide to go ahead and buy either an apartment, all right, in a very high-rise apartment. You can just go ahead buy like a 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, or whatever the capacity that you have, or you can decide to buy a bungalow. I've actually seen a lot of buildings, rather a lot of houses being sold in some outskirts of Nairobi, for example. So the point is this now, what exactly is the best decision? So let's say if you're that kind of an individual who don't want all that disturbance and stubborns and what have you, or maybe you just came out of the country and you're back in Kenya, you know nothing about the construction, you don't even know how much is the building materials and what have you, or maybe let's say you are just an expert from outside the country, you just want to come to Kenya and you're working here and you don't know nothing about building in Kenya. So you can go ahead and maybe the time is not on your side, you can go ahead and purchase that specific home. Now, these are the advantages of actually buying a house. Now, the first thing that you're supposed to understand is that once you buy a home or a house, you find like all those nitty-gritties about the, adhering to the construction, I don't know, National Construction Authority, adhering to, I don't know, all those kind of things. So you just get yourself out of them. What gets you is just a click of a button, you do some transactions, you present your KRA pin, you present all your papers and particulars, you own a house and you get started. Now, one thing that you're supposed to do or understand when it comes to owning a house is or buying a house is that you really don't get exactly what you've been looking for. What happened is that you might find that something in that specific house were designed according to that specific construction company or that specific owner of that house. Maybe you yourself, you have your own preference. Unless maybe you go ahead and adjust inside that specific house, maybe that's the only way, and that means another income or another cost of you actually doing that. Some other thing that you usually find when you buy yourself an apartment in a high rise, you find like there is a restriction about you painting. You cannot repaint like outside. The entire building has to look the same. There are some adherence and all those things you have to follow up to make sure that at least you adhere to the rules and the regulation of that given specific apartment or that given neighborhood. All right. So advantages is this: at a click of a button, without any hassle and bustles, you get your house. Just exchange some papers, particulars, and what have you. You have your home. In most cases, you buy that specific house at a much more at much more pricing. For example, let's say you're buying a house worth like 7 million. So you find that specific house. If you were to build that specific house, assuming maybe you had a piece of of land, you find that that specific house would have costed you like around 5 million or 5.5. So you realize that like, there is like 1.5 or to 2 million that have actually just gone into the down drain. Actually, from your perspective, but the other perspective, of course, that means business. In everything that you're doing, of course, there must be a profit on top of it. This is the point, all right? So if I argue as a person who is selling houses, of course, that means good. It's a good business you can get yourself into. If I argue as a person who would like to purchase or buy a home, has nothing to do with the real estate, just want to get a house for my family, then that is not like so good. Like that one, I would give it a thumbs down, because exactly you're getting more, or rather you are using more money for a less product that you're getting at the end of the day. But I'm saying that it's not overly true that actually buying a house is not a good idea. It is, depending on why you're buying that specific house. And again, I'll repeat my point. If you got out of the country and you just came back, and then you don't want all those nitty-gritties, because maybe let's say you got a tight schedule, you want to get started with other things, then you can go ahead and purchase a house. Okay? Or maybe let's say you're out there, you're just busy, let's say you work with a certain corporate, or you're just wealthy, you don't want to get these hustles and bustles of building and what have you, so you can just go the buying house way, all right? The other point is you building a house. Now, what brings you, or what are the advantages, or what exactly do you get when you decide to go ahead and purchase, or rather buy or build your own home? So when you go ahead and you would like to buy, or rather build a home, oh come on, why am I saying buy? If you would like to build your own home, what you're supposed to understand is that of course you need a piece of land, definitely, and perhaps let's say you do not have much money that you would like to put across, or maybe you set aside dedicated for building or having your own home. So you realize one thing, you have to buy a piece of land. That means that you have to adhere with all the rules and regulation. You have to make sure that you're picking the best company to buy the piece of land from, or that specific individual that you're buying that land from is actually a legit individual. Because nowadays we've been hearing of a lot of conmanship when it comes to building, or rather buying pieces of lands. All right. So let's say you go ahead and you get that legit person, you buy your piece of land, let's say 50 by 100 or whichever the size you would like to, and then from there, of course, before you buying, you have to do something to do the KRA adherence, you have to pay taxes and what have you. The other point is you now getting the architect coming that place and building, or rather sketching you a house, whatever you'd like to build and such kind of a thing. And then now you start the whole hustle and bustle of you building that specific house. This is the advantage that I've seen with a lot of people. I've actually interacted with more than 3 people who have actually built their own houses. And what I've realized with them is that most of them actually had a certain individual, a friend of mine, that guy built what we call a residential or a rental houses. And what happened is that by the end he was clearing to build that specific rental houses. He had just identified a business opportunity. Some of them end up putting up a hardware. You know why? They realize like, oh my goodness, it has costed me a lot of money to buy all those materials. How about if I had my own hardware? Perhaps this is a good business. You see, now they end up having what we call another business on top of that. Or if you do not have a business, then what you have is an experience, like experience of basing, like you understand exactly. If somebody tells you like, can you quote me like what's the cost of building one bedroom, and they tell you like that can go for like 350 to 400,000. Like this individual knows exactly all the nitty gritties of building that specific house. At first, when you're building, of course, expect you to be conned in one way or the other. When I say conning, I mean like you having what we call like, you see, you don't have the nitty gritties, the fine details about the building. You might get some things going up and down. You might end up building a little bit expensive, but I can assure you it will be a little bit cheaper compared to you buying that specific house. What am I meaning? Or what am I trying to say? Let's say you would like to buy a house worth 7 million. Of course, that house that you're buying at 7 million, of course, know that there is an increment of close to 2 million. Let's say 1.8 million, right? Then if the other person decides to use the same 7 million to build a house, that individual, of course, will build a bigger house. If not a bigger house, of course, a quite a cute and pretty house. But if that individual decides to kind of build exactly what this guy, the other guy bought, then one thing you realize that you go down with that 1.8 million or something of sort. But when you're building the first time, of course, you realize that you're going to incur some losses because you know nothing about building. You're just getting yourself into it. And whenever you are getting yourself or introducing yourself to a new industry, rest assured that what awaits for you it's a thing that you really do not know. Then you get people who are taking advantage for you along the way. But by the time you're nearing to, or by the time you're clearing building that specific house, of course, you must have gotten some things when it comes to that specific building. So for me, if you ask me if I have time, if I have all the luxury of time to build my own house, and now of course I always tell people, don't rush into making this bigger decision, especially if a decision is worth a million and above. Of course, you have to take yourself a time. Don't just wake up in the morning, think about building that house or buying that house, and then within the next day you're actually purchasing and such kind of things. Always take your time. Understand that this is quite a huge amount of money, and that requires you sitting down and figuring it out, inquiring different options so that at least you get the best decision. So for me, I will choose going ahead and building my own home. But that one has to come its own disadvantages. Sometimes you may find like adhering to all those rules and regulation when you're building is quite a hectic. Actually, when you're controlling and managing all that construction sites, quite a hectic. But if you take it from a perspective of you gaining an experience, that is an added advantage. But if you take it from a point of really, it's requiring a lot of my time, I have to be there physically, emotionally, and all those kind of things, then those one points or portray themselves as disadvantages. So this is the nutshell that I'll leave you with. The point is, buying a house is quite a good idea. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, it's a good idea. But one thing you're supposed to understand, of course, you have to buy that specific house at a higher price. Because remember, these guys who are selling you this specific house, they are in business, and that means they cannot sell you the same price that they built. Of course, you have to know that you're paying more than what you're getting. That's for a fact, because this is a business. We call it a capital gain. The other thing is that you have to understand is that most likely that house, once you get in, you tend to realize some of the things that you could have adjusted yourself, and you realize, like, maybe if I was the one, would have put this door on this side, maybe I could have done this, I could have, you get the point. You kind of point out the things that you find are so much not fitting with you, because after all, I do believe each and every one of us here has their own preferences. Okay. The other point that you understand is that you buying with your house is actually quite a simple process, because you just need to show up to that specific place, show up to their management, and then you tell them, hey, this one has nice to me and I would like to buy it within a click of a button, exchange and bank transfers and what have you. You own a home. You're done. That's the simple as that. But with you building your own house, understand you gain yourself what you call experience. Number two, you understand that at the end of the building that specific house, you can end up getting yourself into real estate. Yes, I have seen a lot of people who exactly do that. They build their home. By the time they're clearing that specific thing, they already have an idea. Some of them set up a hardware business, because it's quite a lucrative business actually. I've actually talked about that business like a million times on my videos. You can check them and see. The other thing, you realize that the guy can realize, like, hey, you know what, maybe I can just get myself into real estate business, as such kind of a thing. So both of them are quite good. All what I can ask you to do is just weigh yourself and understand exactly what you're looking for. What you're looking for and what motivates you, like internal and external factors that are motivating you to actually make that decision of owning a home, be it either through buying or building, then that what should make you understand. All right. So, and I say those people who actually end up buying it, they are people who just don't want to get out of the town, and they cannot afford to buy a piece of land there as of now. You can afford, but as of now, you do not have that money. So you can decide to buy an apartment, or you can decide to go buy a bungalow just slightly not far from where you come from. So those are the advantages that you have to consider, all the disadvantages that you have to consider before deciding whether buying or building. That's the way to go. All right. So if this is the first time you're watching my videos, my name is Joseph. Talk about money, talk about investment, anything related to exactly that. If that's a cup of your coffee, then consider subscribing to this channel so that you don't miss any piece of my good videos. All right, so make sure that you as well comment down below, because I'm a believer you have something as well that I can learn from. All right, so, and if you're in a position to, then you can share this video with your friends out there, so that we bring forth a lot of guys here, so we build a good home for us all, and we share some ideas. So anyway, if you'd like to have a conversation with me, I'll leave my number on the description of this specific video. I offer anything related to financial consultation, business ideas, business plans. I write business plans, business proposals. I have a lot of them ready actually. If you can pick a ready one, all right, for only $280, or you can pick booklets about like money market fund, treasury bills, treasury bonds, and what have you. Use the same number, contact me in one way or the other, then we get started. For now, it's a goodbye. See you there.